Another topic that's related to transformations are even and odd functions. And these are kind of ways of classifying functions depending on if you have a negative or if you plug in a negative. So even functions, if you plug in a negative x into the function, then you actually just get the original function back. So the negative essentially finds a way to cancel itself out, and you're just left with the original function. An odd function is if you plug in a negative x and you get the negative version of the function, which means every single sign has to be opposite of what the original one is. Now, graphically, even functions are symmetric about the y-axis, and odd functions are symmetric about the origin. And you can look at the pictures on the notes for that. So for 27, our function is f of x is equal to x to the fifth plus x. And we're asked to determine if it's even, odd, or neither. So it is possible to not be even or odd. So I do want to plug in a negative x, which means wherever I see an x, I'm just plugging in negative x instead. And if I simplify this, the negative sign here, if I raise it to the fifth power, it's still going to be negative because an odd number of negatives remains negative. And then this will be minus x. So if I compare this function to the original, so I've plugged in negative x, I've simplified it. Every single sign is opposite, meaning I have x to the fifth and a negative x to the fifth. I have plus x and I have minus x, comparing the two functions. So because every sign is opposite, of the original, that means that this is an odd function. Let's look at 28. Again, to test if it's even or odd, you want to plug in a negative x into the function. So you would copy the function with open parentheses, and then wherever you see an x, you want to plug in negative x. And here, the fourth power, because it's even, is actually going to cancel out that negative sign, because a negative times a negative times a negative times a negative, they go away. So you are going to get x to the fourth. So after simplifying, I compare this to my original, and they are identical. So because this is the same as the original, that means that this is an even function. Lastly, let's look at 29. Again, to test, you want to plug in negative x. So wherever I see x, I want to plug in negative x. And if I simplify this, this is going to be negative 3x cubed plus 2x squared plus 1. Now this is interesting because part of our function is the same. Part of our function is the same. But another part of our function is different. So what that means is, because it's not the same, and they're not all the opposite, then this is neither. So it's not odd and it's not even. So it is possible that it can be not odd and not even. And I like to always say a joke here, or kind of a joke, is that the phrase never odd or even, that is a palindrome, meaning it's spelt the same way forwards and backwards. So that's kind of an interesting palindrome.